I wasn't looking for anything important the day I found it. I was just cleaning out my father's desk 3 days after we buried him. The house was quiet in a way it had never been before. Silence doesn't feel empty after a funeral, it feels heavy. My mother couldn't bring herself to touch his things, so she asked me to sort through his office and decide what to keep. My father was an organized man, the kind of man who labeled folders, stacked bills chronologically, and sharpened his pencils to identical lengths. Which is why the envelope didn't make sense. It wasn't labeled. It was tucked beneath the false bottom of the bottom drawer. I only found it because the wood panel shifted when I lifted a stack of old warranty papers. I remember thinking maybe it was insurance paperwork, or something financial he didn't want my mom worrying about. But when I opened it, a folded piece of aged paper slid into my lap. It wasn't paperwork. It was a hand-drawn map. And at the bottom right corner, written in my father's handwriting, were 3 words. Don't trust her. I stared at it for a long time. My first thought was that it had to be a joke, but my father didn't joke, especially not in handwriting that looked rushed. The map showed a stretch of wooded land about 30 miles outside town. It marked a dirt road, a creek, and something circled near a cluster of trees, and next to the circled area was a small cross. I felt something shift in my stomach. My father owned no property outside town. He worked at the same hardware store for 32 years. He went to church on Sundays. He coached my little league team. He built our back porch with his own hands. He wasn't the kind of man who buried things in forests. At least I didn't think he was. I folded the map back up, and I told myself to forget about it, but I didn't throw it away. I slipped it into my jacket pocket instead. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the cross, and beneath it those words. Don't trust her. My mother was the only woman in his life, at least the only one I knew about. And that was the first time the thought entered my head. What if I didn't know my father at all? By morning, I had already made up my mind. I was going to follow the map. I told my mother I needed to clear my head. She barely looked up from her coffee when I left. The address on the map wasn't exact, just landmarks and distances written in my father's tight handwriting. 30 miles west. Turn after the broken mile marker. The drive felt longer than it should have. The radio wouldn't pick up any stations. Eventually, the pavement turned into dirt. My tires crunched against gravel and loose stone. I checked the map 3 times. The creek should have been coming up soon, and then I saw it. A narrow ribbon of water cutting through the trees. My father had drawn an X near a bend in that creek. Next to it, a single word, wait. Wait for what? I parked off the dirt road and stepped out. The forest swallowed the sound of my car door closing. The air smelled damp, like soil that hadn't seen sunlight in years. I followed the creek downstream. Each step felt louder than it should have. About 10 minutes in, I saw the clearing. It matched the drawing almost perfectly, and in the center was a patch of ground where the soil looked disturbed. No cross, no marker, just a shallow rise in the earth, like something had been buried without ceremony. My chest tightened. I wasn't prepared for it to look real. I stood there for nearly 5 minutes, listening. That's when I heard it, a car door closing in the distance. My heart dropped into my stomach. I wasn't alone. Branches snapped somewhere behind me, slow, deliberate footsteps. I turned around and saw my mother standing at the edge of the clearing. She looked smaller somehow, but her eyes weren't surprised. You found it, she said. Not a question. I couldn't speak at first. I just held up the map. She didn't look at it. She looked at the ground. And then she said something I will never forget. He told you not to trust me, didn't he? My hands started shaking because she didn't deny it. She took a slow step toward the mound, and I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There was a shovel leaning against a tree, fresh dirt still clinging to the metal blade. I stared at the shovel for what felt like an eternity. The dirt on it was still damp. You shouldn't have come alone, my mother said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. What is this? I finally managed to ask. My throat felt tight. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up the shovel. For a split second, I thought she was going to swing it at me, but she turned toward the mound. "He wanted you to know," she said, "but not like this." Then she drove the shovel into the soil. The sound of metal slicing earth echoed louder than it should have. I stepped back instinctively. My pulse was hammering in my ears. She dug with steady, practiced movements, not hesitant, not emotional. "How long?" I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. "6 years," she replied. "Since he found out." "Found out what?" She kept digging. The hole was deeper than I expected. Eventually, the shovel hit something solid, a hollow thud. She dropped to her knees and brushed the dirt away with her hands. It wasn't a coffin. It was a wooden storage crate. I expected a smell. Decay. Rot, but there was nothing, just wet earth and old wood. She looked up at me. "There's no body." My knees almost gave out. "If there's no body, then what is this?" She opened the crate. Inside were stacks of papers, photographs, envelopes. And on top of everything was a photograph of me, not a recent one. One from when I was 12. I swallowed hard. "Why is this here?" My mother stood slowly. "He hired someone to follow me." The words didn't register at first. "Follow you?" "He thought I was having an affair," she said. "He never told me directly." My chest felt hollow. "That's why he wrote, 'Don't trust her,'" she nodded. "But he was wrong." I looked down into the crate again. And then I saw the dates on the documents. They didn't stop 6 years ago. They were recent. I felt something colder than fear. Betrayal. "You said 6 years," I whispered. "But these are from last month." For the first time, she looked unsure. And that's when I understood something terrifying. My father didn't bury secrets here. Someone else did. And if the documents were recent, that meant someone had been watching her, or watching us. Behind us, a twig snapped. This time, it wasn't imagination. We both turned toward the sound at the exact same time. The forest felt like it was holding its breath. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. My mother didn't answer. Another snap, closer. Then a figure stepped out from behind the trees. Not rushing, not hiding anymore. He was older than me, but younger than my father. Mid-40s maybe. And when I saw his face clearly, my stomach dropped. It was Daniel, my father's old business partner. They'd opened a small contracting company together 15 years ago. It collapsed after 2 years. My father never talked about why it failed, just said it didn't work out. Daniel gave a slow clap. "You weren't supposed to dig that up." My mother stepped in front of me, instinctively. "You've done enough," she said coldly. Her voice carried no fear this time. Daniel looked at the open crate, then at the map in my hand. "He left that for you?" Daniel asked. He sounded almost amused. I felt anger rising past the confusion. "What is this?" Daniel gestured toward the crate. "Insurance." The word didn't make sense until he kept talking. "Your father found out I was skimming money from the company. He threatened to go to the police." My heart pounded. "That's why the business collapsed." Daniel shrugged. "So I convinced him your mother was having an affair." The words hit harder than anything else that day. "He didn't just steal money, he destroyed our family from the inside." "He needed proof," Daniel continued, "so I gave him proof." The documents in the crate weren't evidence. They were fabrications, staged photos, forged receipts. My father believed them, and it poisoned him. "He didn't bury a body," Daniel said. "He buried his pride." My mother's hands trembled. "He never forgave me." "And he never confronted you," I realized. Daniel smiled. "He was too ashamed." So I kept the leverage, the recent dates. He had been updating the crate, just in case, Daniel added. In case he changed his mind. Rage flooded through me. "You ruined 30 years of their marriage." Daniel tilted his head. "He let me." That was the cruelest truth of all. My father chose silence. He chose suspicion over confrontation, and it cost him everything. The forest felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. Daniel took a step back toward the trees. "You should have left it buried." And then he turned and ran. For a second I thought about chasing him, but I didn't, because the real damage wasn't him. It was what he'd already done. My mother sank to the ground, and for the first time in my life I saw her break. For a long time neither of us spoke. The forest slowly exhaled around us. The crate sat open between us. 30 years of lies stacked neatly inside. My mother wiped her face with shaking hands. He stole our life. But something still didn't sit right with me. Daniel's words echoed in my head. He let me. I knelt beside the crate again and started flipping through the papers more carefully. That's when I noticed something small, something I'd missed before. One of the forged receipts wasn't forged. It had my father's actual signature, not copied, not traced. And it was dated 2 years after the company collapsed. I felt my chest tighten again. "Mom," she looked at me, and in her eyes I saw the same realization forming. Daniel didn't fabricate everything. Some of it was real. Not an affair. Money transfers from the company account into a separate account under my father's name. Small amounts at first, then larger. Daniel skimmed, but my father did too. The difference was scale. Daniel was greedy. My father was desperate. The hardware store barely covered our mortgage back then. I remembered the tension in the house, the quiet fights, the slammed doors. He must have thought he could replace the money before anyone noticed. Just a temporary fix, but Daniel found out and turned it into leverage. He didn't just accuse my mother. He offered my father a deal. Silence in exchange for silence. Daniel wouldn't report the stolen funds. If my father didn't report his, but my father needed something stronger, something that guaranteed my mother wouldn't question him. So he chose suspicion over confession. He believed the affair story because it protected him. And he buried the crate, not to expose her, but to protect himself. The map wasn't a warning about her. It was a warning about what he had become. Don't trust her wasn't for me. It was for him, a reminder to keep believing the lie, so he wouldn't have to face the truth. My mother sank back onto the forest floor. He thought I betrayed him, but he betrayed us first, I said quietly. Not with an affair, not with violence, with cowardice. We buried the crate again that night, not to hide it, but because some truths don't need witnesses. They just need to be understood. Daniel was arrested 3 months later. Tax fraud, not because of us, but because men like him eventually slip. My father's map stayed in my desk after that, folded, silent. I don't hate him, but I don't see him the same anymore, because betrayal doesn't always look like a knife in the back. Sometimes it looks like silence at the dinner table. Sometimes it looks like suspicion instead of honesty, or pride instead of apology. And sometimes it looks like a map, because some betrayals are loud and some are buried, but they all leave marks, even after the grave is covered. This is not a story about a body, it's about a choice. And in the end, the map didn't lead me to a grave, it led me to the truth.